Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan, and in for Amy this morning, former ABC7 political reporter Charles Thomas.
Good morning.
Hey, Charles, wasn't it Gloria Steinem who said that a woman needs a man like a fish needs a bicycle? I think it was her.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
We know what she was trying to say.
Yeah, I'm thinking about that because I like that simile as applied to Hollywood talking politics. We need the insights of celebrities on politics and policy like a fish needs a bicycle. To wit, Luke Skywalker at the White House press briefing this week. It was so bizarre. Is that supposed to wow the press corps and the nation? A 72-year-old Mark Hamill opining on the presidential race?
Here we go. Okay. How many of you had Mark Hamill will lead the press briefing on your bingo card? Hands? Yeah, me either. And look, I just got to meet the president. He gave me these aviator glasses. I love the merch. Love it all. But listen, I just wanted to say I was honored to be asked to come to the White House to meet the president, the most legislative, successful president in my lifetime. And, I don't have to go through the list of bipartisan infrastructure law, the PACT Act, the CHIPS Act, all of that, inflation, 15 million jobs. Look, it's all good. I mean, I was really thrilled to meet the entire staff. I'm open to questions, although no Star Wars questions, please. But I want to say once again how grateful I am, and it just shows you that one person can be so influential and so positive in our lives.
Biden bring up Star Wars too, sir?
Well, I called him Mr. President. He said, "You can call me Joe." And I said, "Can I call you Joe Obi-Wan Kenobi?" And he liked that.
You silly fish. Get off that bicycle.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God. That actually happened in the West Wing. That actually went down.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
It's just...
Man.
It really is like unintentionally entertaining. I find it entertaining. It's almost as entertaining as Bobby De Niro. I mean, since he doesn't make entertaining movies anymore, at least he can offer this sort of entertainment.
I think other people are going to have to stand up and just, because it's either that or you're going to find yourself in a situation that's so terrifying. We always hear about people from Eastern Europe, the Jews from other parts of Eastern Europe, from Western Europe coming over. Look what happened in France. And with the Nazis and so on, and they come over, and you hear these, and when I was a kid, they'd say, "You don't really appreciate this country. You don't really appreciate what we know from experience." Imagine what those people went through. I'm just starting to see it. As a kid, I said, Hitler, it's a nightmare that never would happen, but now I see that it's possible. But those people, and sometimes I run into some people who are close to my age who are from Eastern European countries, or even Nazi Germany, and you understand it.
Yeah, right. It's like it could never happen in this country. Like during that same period when one of Bobby De Niro's favorite presidents illegally interned Japanese Americans. Oh,
yeah.
Right.
Well, too, what's happening now in this country under Joe Biden. I mean, the fact that you can indict, charge a former president with, 91 felonies or whatever, in your Justice Department, you raid a former president's home. I mean...
Well, again, Charles, look, they're trying to prevent the Fourth Reich. And it's all hands on deck. Jeffrey Katzenberg, former Disney boss, DreamWorks, all that jazz. I said at a fundraiser reportedly, when I was in high school, we were studying Third Reich Germany and the rise of Hitler. And over the holiday, our teacher suggested to class that to the degree which we could, please go home and talk to your grandparents. Ask them, what did they read? What did they see? What did they hear? What did they do? Katzenberger said his family members who lived in Europe prior to World War II thought this guy was a clown, that what he was saying was so incredibly impossible and unimaginable, and then we ran for our lives quite literally. And that's what's happening in America, or will happen in America if Trump is elected. Because we have no idea what Trump will do except for the 4 years he was president.
Except for the 4 years he was president.
Except for that.
Yeah.
Hollywood is so entertaining, and no one is more entertaining covering Hollywood than Christian Toto. He's an award-winning film critic, author of the book Virtue Bombs, How Hollywood Got Woke and Lost Its Soul, and host of the Hollywood in Toto podcast. And I had him on my podcast a few weeks back, so you can check that out at amgreatness.com. It was a great conversation about movies and politics. And the reason I really like Christian Toto, I'm a bit of a cinephile. I think that's fair to say. And Christian Toto has like a great artistic eye. He's like my Roger Ebert. I go to him for movie reviews too. So it's not just about Hollywood politics. It's actually he really has a good artistic eye, and he's a good writer. You can get his stuff at HollywoodInToto, Toto, HollywoodInToto.com. Christian Toto, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Oh my gosh, thanks for the kind introduction. I have to just immediately jump in and say, we're talking about Nazi Germany and Hitler, and these I have to watch my words. These celebrities, they can't spare a syllable about what's going on in colleges across the country. Mm-hmm. Not one word.
Right.
But they're going to pretend. They're going to pretend that Trump is Hitler. After, like you said, we get 4 years of very un-Hitler-like behavior. And as a matter of fact, when you look across the country, censorship is on the rise. Thank you to the Biden administration. There are so many things going on right now that speak to the dystopia that they're so afraid of. And I have to harken back to Adam Carolla, the classic line, stupid or liar. Are they this dumb or are they just lying? I don't know.
Just piling on here with Hamill and De Niro and Katzenberg. Alan Ritchson, this guy who's come to stardom because of his Jack Reacher series on Amazon. This guy, it's bizarre. He has a real problem with Christians. I think he sort of claims he's a Christian, and he spends a lot of time slamming Christians who support Trump. And we had this
really
conversation. We had a little conversation about him on a podcast when we talk, and I wanted to recount that a bit because one of the things that's interesting about these guys, like you're a film critic, and I remember you saying you've tried to get an interview with him, and he won't do an interview with you. So they have to be in their bubble. They can't talk to anybody who may press them. They're just there for, like the White House press corps, to be scriveners of all the wisdom that emanates from Mark Hamill. And that's the same thing that Ritchson and these other celebrities do too. They just stay in the comfort of their ecosystem, their safe space, as it were.
That's what they do. And, part of it is that their management, their PR people, their reps would steer them away from me in a heartbeat. And there's been anecdotal proof behind that. Greg Gutfeld has talked about how he just can't get many celebrities on his very popular late night show for that reason. That the press people are the stonewall there. But, Ritchson was fascinating because he was is a rising star to his credit. The show is very popular. And he was starting to talk about his faith in God in a way that most celebrities don't.
Right.
And then it's almost like he pivoted on a dime to turn that into, well, how could my fellow Christians like Trump? And then he segued into cops kill people. He kind of basically embraced a whole bunch of alienating far left causes, like back to back. Oh, James Bond is misogynist, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
and it reminded me of Chris Pratt from a couple of years ago, because Chris Pratt has been very open about his faith. And then at one point, he did an interview with a major magazine where he seemed to undercut that to a degree, or took like a left-wing position. And I almost think, I wonder if the powers that be, the people who control their careers, who guide them, who counsel them, say, hey, Chris, you got to tone this down, maybe modulate it with this. Because it just seemed out of the blue with Chris Pratt, and it certainly seemed out of the blue with Alan Ritchson. I'm being cynical, but I've watched Hollywood for a while. I know how the industry operates. And why would you say those things if you're a rising star? There's no gun to your head. There's no reason to get into that territory. You can promote your movie, tell a little bit about your personal life, say some silly stories, and then all of a sudden everyone likes you and wants to see your movies more. Now, many conservatives who are rallying around his sort of 80s-esque action hero don't like him.
Yeah, it's my perspective on this, gets your reaction, is that Hollywood has changed, much like, since you mentioned it, college campuses have changed, where, back in the day, Charlton Heston, his politics didn't matter. But now your politics do matter, and you can, even if you're a rising star, you can have that rise cut short. Because of sort of the institutional controls, the people who have institutional control of movie making and television series. Jerry Seinfeld was talking about this too, with the death of situational comedies. And there are examples too. I mean, Jim Caviezel, for example, he's had a great career and he's made a lot of money, but after doing the Gibson movie and now certainly Sound of Freedom, he doesn't, I'm sure he would say he doesn't get considered for a lot of scripts that if he wasn't outspoken, he would get considered for.
It's nothing less than the new Hollywood blacklist. I know there are many differences. I know that there are, historical elements of the first blacklist that are very different than what's going on today. But the bottom line is, if you think a certain way, you have to watch your step in Hollywood. And I think the best example is Kevin Sorbo. He, of course, is famous for Hercules, done a lot of work over the years. I've met him multiple times, a very nice fellow, a smart guy. He has talked about losing his career because he's Christian and he's conservative. Now, just dial your memory back. What was the one thing that Kevin Sorbo said that was so gross and vile? And what was the act that he did that was so untenable that he had to be kicked out of Hollywood? You can't think of it because it didn't happen. There's nothing he did wrong, to my knowledge. I mean, I think it would be all over the news. So because he thinks a certain way, he no longer has the ability to work in traditional Hollywood, and he's basically carved out his own work. He makes his own films. Good for him. But it's just a perfect example of what we're talking about. And for these Hollywood stars to pretend it doesn't exist and not rally against it and say, hey, I may be progressive, but the fact that my friend Kevin Sorbo can't work, that's beyond the pale. They never say it. They're cowards, a lot of them.
Can I ask a question? Who are the shot callers in Hollywood? The corporate shot callers who are intimidating those who we see in the films and other performances?
I don't think it's a single person or group. I think it's a culture. I mean, I've heard stories about casting agents who will look through social media accounts of a certain star or an actor and then maybe hire them or not hire them based on what they see. It could be directors, it could be screenwriters. I think it's there's just a fear of people saying the wrong thing. I mean, look at Gina Carano, an actress on a very popular series. They were talking about spinning her off the Mandalorian because she was so beloved. And then she didn't say anything outrageous. She just questioned a couple of progressive narratives. Disney fired her. Now, she's suing Disney right now, and good for her. But, I mean, tell me her crime. What was her crime? And then I could tell you the list of actors who have said cruel, mean, terrible, terrible things again and again against their fellow Americans, and that nothing happens to them because it's all about politics. It's all about the culture.
Have they come for you?
So far, no, thank goodness. Maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm not big and famous enough for them to even pay attention to me. But I operate on a very professional level. If you look at my site and my podcast, I don't name call. I'm not spreading rumors. If a liberal movie is good, I will sing its praises. If an actor is doing great work, I don't care their politics. I will praise the work they do. So I try to be as reasonable as possible. But I certainly rock the boat, and I certainly put pressure on not just Hollywood, but the Hollywood news outlets that don't do their job. The perfect example, you've got many Jewish stars now who are being canceled for just being Jewish. Michael Rappaport, Matisyahu, Brett Gelman is a popular character actor. There was a singer just, I think, hours ago in a European contest who I think she was banned from singing. All these things are going on. So where are the artists who want to speak out for free speech? The Truth to Power crowd. They're just not there, and the media barely covers it.
Well, the other thing too is they're corrupting their art. I mean, they're diminishing the quality of their product. A good example of this is this report that was out that about this action tank think tank action tank in LA called Good Energy. It has a goal that 50% of new TV and film projects acknowledge climate change within the next 3 years. So, I mean, it's like shoehorning in the trans character in everything. You're going to have to shoehorn in climate change, even if it makes absolutely no sense, if it's ham-handed, which it almost invariably will be if the movie is otherwise has nothing to do with climatology. But this is the content control, and this is again going back to Seinfeld. I want to get your comment. What he was saying has happened to sitcoms that are not Seinfeld or Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Yeah, it is fascinating, and when you inject the politics and the woke bromides into these stories, there's two things that happen. Once in a blue moon, it does work out well. Like, just flows with the story, and that's perfectly fine. And often movies will send a message or have a theme, and that can make it richer. Yeah. But what you'll see is these moments basically take you out of the experience. You recognize them as a lecture, and all of a sudden, instead of getting lost in the story, you're awakened to the fact that the storytellers want to send a message. That's bad. But also, it's an odd thing that happens with these creators, where if they want to send a message, if they want to be woke, if they want to kind of check all the identity politics boxes, the work often suffers, and it's almost like they're so focused on that they focus less on the finished product, the story, the flow of the characters, the arcs, and things like that. I can't quite explain what that is, but it is something that I've seen from time to time. Can we jump into Seinfeld real quick?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, okay. So Seinfeld came out and said that the extreme left has really damaged comedy because you can't offend this, you can't offend that. And it was very interesting, the reaction, because you saw a bunch of instant think pieces from the media saying, well, he's wrong. And I read a lot of them, and a lot of them were, well, he's old, he's white, he's out of touch. And they don't really address what he's saying and the consequences. And then I read two different other hit pieces. One was, it was just bizarre. I don't even know what the point of it was. It was on CNN. And another said, well, now that he's embraced politics, people may see him differently. I'm thinking, where have you been the last 20 years? Almost every actor has embraced politics, sometimes to the extreme extent. And you never wrote a column about how they are now seen differently by their fans. Why now? I mean, what Jerry Seinfeld said was pretty innocuous and pretty brief. Why now? But we all know why now.
Yeah, well, the other thing, too, is the underlying statement he made is correct, and they can't address that, so they have to go after him. And the statement is, where is the appointment sitcom that everybody watches? I had this conversation with, gosh, I'm blanking on his name now. I just had the conversation with him from the co-founder of Ricochet, who was a Cheers producer and writer, Rob Long. And and he said like, they say the audience is fragmented, and this is what the lament is. And he said, no, the audience isn't fragmented. You're making products that fragment the audience, and so there is no Cheers, there is no Seinfeld. Curb is the closest thing, but that's because it's a throwback to how sitcoms used to be made. There is no MASH, and that's what the Seinfeld's point. And I mean, you look around and you say, give me a sitcom in the last decade that measures up to those standards.
On a personal note, I've been binge watching multiple sitcoms at night with my family. So we went from Modern Family, we went to The Office, we went to Parks and Rec, and now we're doing Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and they're all wonderful shows.
Yeah,
and the
Brooklyn
thing that they all
Nine-Nine
have in common is that they were all made before this woke movement really took hold. Mm-hmm. And you could just see the freedom, the ability to kind of go in different directions. And even Modern Family, which had a famously gay couple, I'd watch the early seasons and think, A, it's really funny, and B, oh, you couldn't tell that joke, oh, you couldn't have that situation, oh, this person wouldn't be as flawed because he's a gay character and you can't do that. So you can just see how things have changed. And listen, there is still good comedy being made, but it's much, much less. And when was the last raucous R-rated comedy that united the culture? It hasn't been a while. And even Todd Phillips, the director of the Hangover series, a couple of years ago said, yeah, I'm doing Joker movies now because I can't do comedy. They won't let me. And there was another outcry about that. But they couldn't say he was wrong.
Right.
And the ultimate argument is, hey, when Mel Brooks says, I couldn't make Blazing Saddles today, he's right, and no one argues against him because he's got the point.
Christian Toto, award-winning film critic, author of Virtue Bombs, How Hollywood Got Woke and Lost Its Soul, host of the Hollywood in Toto podcast, and get his podcast and musings at HollywoodInToto.com. Christian Toto, thank you as always. Appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure.
And he joined us on the Turnkey.Pro answer line.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer.
Your show keeps me alive during the week. There's nobody I'd rather listen to between 5 and 9 in the morning than you guys.
On AM 560, The Answer.